Welcome to this explainer. Like most of us, I've always kind of looked at my monthly insurance bills as just a necessary evil. It's a sunk cost you pay, right? Just crossing your fingers, you never actually have to use it. But digging into the numbers reveals something absolutely wild. Behind those frustrating premiums is a massive profit center. It turns out it's actually one of the most powerful wealth-building engines in modern finance.
Which brings up a fascinating, almost dangerous question. Why do the rich love insurance? Seriously, it's the exact realization that allowed the wealthy to quietly create a financial structure that the general public almost never notices. They looked at an industry that the rest of us just view as an annoying obligation, and they recognized it for what it truly is, an absolute, undeniable cash-generating machine.
Okay, let's really dive into this mindset shift. For the average person, watching an insurance premium leave your bank account it feels like watching money sprout wings and fly away forever. It's just a mandatory expense. But the ultra wealthy, they view that exact same premium in a completely different light. To them, it's a massive, tax-advantaged capital generator. And to understand exactly how they flip the script on this, we really need to look at how the machine itself is built. So let's pop open the hood and look at the engine. We need to understand the underlying mechanics of why insurance companies just so happen to be some of the most phenomenally profitable businesses on the face of the earth. Because honestly, once you grasp the mechanics of this engine, the entire strategy of the ultra-wealthy makes perfect sense. To get there, let's just rewind a few hundred years and look at ocean merchants moving valuable cargo. They faced literal storms and pirates, right? And a single shipwreck meant total financial ruin. So they came up with a pretty brilliant system. They pooled their money together to share the risk. If disaster struck, the losses were covered from that common pool. Now, this simple shared risk model became the bedrock for modern economies. But as it scaled up, a massive hidden side effect emerged.
And that side effect is arguably the single most important concept in this entire explainer: the insurance float. The float is the enormous amount of premium cash collected by insurers, held in reserve and then invested for long periods before claims are ever actually paid out. Think about your bank for a second. They don't just shove your paycheck into a dusty vault. They invest it while it just sits in your account. Well, insurance companies realized they were collecting massive piles of cash every single month, while the claims, those might take years to materialize, and sometimes they just never materialize at all.
So let's track the true life cycle of your premium cash. They collect your money, hold a safe little amount in reserve just to keep the regulators happy, but then comes the real magic. They invest the float. While they wait to pay out those delayed claims way down the line, that massive pool of cash is out in the market earning returns for the insurance company. Not for you. They aren't just making money on the premiums anymore. They are making an absolute fortune investing the float. Which brings us to the pivot. This was the real light bulb moment for the big players. Massive corporations and the ultra-wealthy watched insurance companies get filthy rich off the float created by their premium dollars. And eventually, they started asking themselves a very logical and very dangerous question. Why rent when you can own? Why on earth are we feeding a financial machine that we don't even control? Just think about the sheer scale of the premiums we're talking about here. A global hotel chain with thousands of rooms, airlines with multi-million-dollar fleets, massive shipping operations, sprawling real estate empires. These entities pay tens of millions of dollars every single year just for insurance. It's a staggering amount of capital that's constantly leaving their hands. So it hit them. If insurers are getting rich from our massive premiums, why don't we just create our own insurance company? That specific realization birthed the ultimate corporate wealth hack, captive insurance. Now, this is a fully licensed, heavily regulated insurance company that is created and owned directly by the business itself. To be perfectly clear, the risks are still very real. They still face strict audits, and they absolutely pay out legitimate claims. But the fundamental shift here is that the money no longer leaves the company's ecosystem. The parent company pays the premium, sure, but they're paying it to a subsidiary that they actually own. But here's the thing, keeping the money in-house is really only half the magic. The real accelerant for these family offices and large corporations comes down to two specific things: taxes and leverage. This is where the financial wizardry really truly takes off. Normally, if a company makes a $20 million profit and just sits on it, they get taxed heavily. That's just how the system works. But with this structure, there's a dual benefit. Insurance premiums are treated as tax-deductible business expenses, so the parent company pays a massive premium to its own captive insurance company, legally lowering its taxable income in the process. At the exact same time, that capital is retained. It stays within the broader corporate structure waiting for claims, and during that waiting period, the captive gets to invest that massive float. It is, frankly, brilliant cash flow management. And this structure became so unbelievably powerful that entire global hubs formed just to service it. Places like Bermuda, the Cayman Islands, and even Vermont, right here in the US, built specific laws and regulations designed to support this industry. Armies of lawyers, accountants, actuaries, and regulators, basically modern-day pirates trading their cutlasses for calculators, set up shop in these exact locations for the sole purpose of helping wealthy businesses manage all this capital efficiently. But if you really want to see the absolute masterclass in using insurance to build wealth, we have to talk about Warren Buffett. Captive insurance is how a business protects its own wealth, right? But Buffett, he showed the entire world how to use the exact same concept, the insurance float, to basically conquer the global economy. To understand Buffett's playbook, you have to understand a major mindset shift. A poor investor is often out there chasing magical, high-risk investments, dreaming of turning $1,000 into $1 million overnight. But a rich investor knows that the game completely changes at scale. If you control $1 billion, you don't need wild, crazy risks. A steady, predictable 8% return on $1 billion, that's $80 million a year. At the highest levels of wealth, it's not about finding the next crypto coin. It is entirely about gaining access to massive pools of capital. Which brings us to a seriously powerful realization. Whoever controls the float controls the money while it waits. This is exactly why Buffett became so obsessed with insurance early in his career. Everyone always studies what specific stocks Buffett picked, but the real question is, how did he get so much money to invest in the first place? The answer? He bought insurance companies. By acquiring companies like National Indemnity and later Geico, he wasn't just buying a standard business, he was buying direct access to their float. To put this into perspective, back in the 1970s, Berkshire Hathaway's total insurance float was somewhere around $50 million. That was a pool of money generated entirely by premiums, just waiting around to be paid out as claims. And Buffett got to act as the steward for it. He took that $50 million and used it to buy up other companies and massively compound his wealth. Now, compare that to today. Berkshire Hathaway currently controls well over $150 billion in insurance float. I mean, that is an absolutely staggering amount of leverage. It creates an almost impossible-to-beat competitive advantage. He effectively gained access to one of the largest pools of investable capital in the entire world, and it was generated completely through the basic mechanics of insurance businesses. And what exactly does he do with that $150 billion? Well, he invests the float into sprawling American businesses, massive infrastructure projects, and entire railroads. Remember, this isn't traditionally Berkshire's money. It's delayed claim money just sitting in reserve. But while the insurance companies wait to pay out those claims, Buffett uses that massive lever to buy up tangible, real-world assets that generate immense, lasting wealth for his empire. Which leaves us with a final, vital question to ponder. Are you just paying for risk, or are you actually leveraging it? Whether it's a massive corporation keeping its premiums in-house with a captive, or Warren Buffett using billions in float to buy actual railroads, the wealthiest entities on Earth just do not view insurance as a bill. They view it as a lever. They realize the real money isn't always in the product itself, it's in controlling the flow of capital around it. So, the next time you pay a premium, maybe ask yourself, whose wealth engine are you actually fueling?